Picture this. You're scrolling through social media at 2 a.m. watching others live the life you claim you want. "I don't have time," you whisper. "I'm not smart enough. I don't have the resources." Sound familiar? Here's the devastating truth that will shatter everything you believe about yourself. What if I told you that every single excuse you create is slowly killing the person you're meant to become? Simone de Beauvoir discovered something terrifying about human nature. We don't just make excuses, we fall in love with them. We build entire identities around our limitations. But here's what's really disturbing. Studies show that 92% of people never achieve their goals, and it's not because they lack ability. It's because they've become addicted to the sweet poison of justification. Think about it. When was the last time you caught yourself saying, "I can't," when you really meant "I won't"? That moment of recognition, that's your prison door creaking open. But are you brave enough to walk through it? Because once you see what Beauvoir saw, there's no going back to the comfortable lie of helplessness. The question isn't whether you're capable. The question is, are you ready to face a world where excuses no longer exist? Your brain is a master manipulator, and it's been lying to you your entire life. Right now, as you're watching this, your mind is already crafting the perfect excuse for why this message doesn't apply to you. "My situation is different," it whispers. "You don't understand my circumstances." But here's what Beauvoir understood that most people never will. We don't just make excuses, we become them. Think about your favorite excuse. Go ahead, bring it to mind right now. Feel how comfortable it is, how it wraps around you like a warm blanket. That's not comfort, that's psychological quicksand. Beauvoir called this mauvaise foi, bad faith. It's when we pretend we have no choice while secretly knowing we do. We transform our limitations into our identity because it's easier than facing the terrifying truth. We are the authors of our own story. Here's the disturbing part. Your brain actually rewards you for making excuses. Every time you say, "I can't," dopamine floods your system. Why? Because you've just protected yourself from potential failure, from judgment, from the exhausting work of growth. Your excuse becomes your drug. And like any addiction, you need stronger doses over time. But here's what's really happening. While you're building monuments to your limitations, life is passing you by. That dream job? Someone with less talent, but fewer excuses got it. That relationship, that business, that adventure, all taken by people who refuse to worship at the altar of "I can't." The most dangerous lie we tell ourselves isn't, "I'm not good enough." It's, "I'm not ready yet." Because yet implies someday, and someday is where dreams go to die. When will you be ready? When you're 40, 50, when your kids are grown, when you retire? Or will you keep moving the goalposts until your deathbed, where the only excuse left is, "I ran out of time"? Beauvoir lived through 2 world wars, faced sexism that would crush most people today, and still refused to let circumstances define her possibilities. She understood something crucial. The difference between a legitimate obstacle and a convenient excuse isn't the situation, it's your relationship with it. So ask yourself this: are your excuses protecting you, or are they slowly suffocating the person you're meant to become? Here's the moment that will either liberate you or terrify you into paralysis. You have always had a choice. Always. Even when you convinced yourself you didn't. Even when the world told you otherwise. Even in your darkest moments, Beauvoir and her existentialist companions discovered the most beautiful and horrifying truth about human existence. We are condemned to be free. But why does freedom feel like a death sentence? Because with absolute freedom comes absolute responsibility. And absolute responsibility is the heaviest burden a human soul can carry. Right now, you're probably thinking, but what about my circumstances, my background, my limitations? Here's what Beauvoir would tell you. Your circumstances are your raw materials, not your destiny. The moment you truly understand this, I mean really understand it, everything changes. And that change is absolutely terrifying. Think about it. If you're 100% responsible for your life, then every failure, every missed opportunity, every moment of mediocrity is on you. No more blaming your parents, your education, your boss, the economy, or society. No more, "If only I had." No more, "When this happens, then I'll..." Just you. your choices, and the crushing weight of unlimited possibility. This is why most people run screaming back to their excuses. Freedom is exhausting. It's easier to be a victim than a creator. It's more comfortable to blame external forces than to admit you've been the author of your own limitations all along. But here's the paradox that will blow your mind. The more free you become, the more terrifying life gets, but also the more alive you feel. If you're feeling that weight right now, that uncomfortable shift in your chest, that's not anxiety, that's awakening. And if this message is resonating with you, if you're ready to stop running from your own power, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Because what we're exploring here isn't just philosophy. It's a blueprint for reclaiming your life from the prison of your own making. Beauvoir didn't just theorize about freedom, she lived it. She chose her own path in a world that told women they had no choices. She refused marriage when society demanded it. She pursued philosophy when it was a man's field. She lived authentically when authenticity could destroy you. And every day she faced the terrifying question, what will I choose to become today? That question is now yours. Are you ready to carry the beautiful burden of being completely, utterly, devastatingly free? There comes a moment in every person's life when the excuses stop working. Not because the world changes, but because something inside you breaks or awakens. You're sitting there, maybe at 3 a.m., maybe in your car after another disappointing day, and suddenly you hear it. The sound of your own voice making the same excuse you've been making for years. And for the first time, it sounds hollow, empty, pathetic even. This is your awakening moment. And it's brutal because you realize you've been lying to yourself for so long that you actually believed it. The excuse that once felt so real, so justified, now sounds like what it always was. A story you told yourself to avoid the hard work of becoming who you're meant to be. But here's what's really happening in that moment. Your soul is rejecting the poison. Your authentic self is finally strong enough to call bullshit on your own narrative. Beauvoir called this the situation versus our response to the situation. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. And the moment you truly grasp this, everything shifts. Let me tell you about Sarah, a woman who spent 15 years saying she couldn't start her business because she didn't have an MBA. 15 years. Then one day, she watched a 22-year-old college dropout sell his company for millions. That night, she couldn't sleep. Not because she was angry, but because she finally heard her excuse for what it was, a security blanket that had become a straitjacket. Or consider Marcus, who blamed his childhood for his inability to maintain relationships. My parents divorced when I was young, he'd say. I don't know how to love properly. Until he met someone whose parents had also divorced, whose childhood was arguably worse, but who had built a beautiful marriage. That's when Marcus realized he wasn't damaged. He was choosing to stay damaged. The signs are always there when you're ready for this brutal awakening. You start noticing other people succeeding despite having the same limitations you claim. You catch yourself mid-excuse and feel embarrassed. You realize you've been telling the same story for years without questioning if it's still true, or if it was ever true. But here's the most devastating realization of all. You start calculating the cost. Not just what your excuses have cost you in terms of opportunities, but what they've cost you in terms of self-respect. How many times have you looked in the mirror and known, really known, that you were capable of more but chose comfort instead? The question isn't whether you're ready to stop making excuses. The question is, are you ready to face the person you could have been all along? So you've had the awakening. The excuses taste like poison now. You've seen through your own lies. But here's where most people get stuck. They think awareness equals transformation. They think recognizing the problem is the same as solving it. Wrong. Dead wrong. The real work, the soul-crushing, identity-shattering, life-rebuilding work, starts now, and it's going to hurt in ways you never imagined. Living without excuses isn't just changing your behavior. It's rewiring your entire nervous system. Your brain has been running on excuse software for years, maybe decades. Every neural pathway, every automatic response, every comfort mechanism is designed around avoiding responsibility. Now, you're asking it to operate in a completely different reality. It's like asking someone who's been in a wheelchair their entire life to suddenly run a marathon. Beauvoir understood this brutal transition. When she chose to live authentically, she didn't just change her mind. She had to reconstruct her entire identity. She had to learn to tolerate the discomfort of uncertainty, the weight of choice, the loneliness of taking full responsibility. She had to develop what I call excuse immunity, the ability to catch yourself mid-justification and course-correct in real time. Here's what this looks like practically. You wake up and your brain immediately starts generating reasons why today isn't the day to start. Instead of believing it, you notice it. There's my brain trying to protect me from discomfort, you think. Then you do the thing anyway. Not because you feel like it, but because you've decided that your feelings don't get to drive the bus anymore. But here's the part no one talks about. This process is lonely. When you stop making excuses, you realize how much of your social connections were built around shared victimhood. Your friends who love to complain about their circumstances suddenly feel uncomfortable around your new energy. Your family members who've enabled your excuses for years don't know how to relate to this new version of you. Beauvoir experienced this isolation when she refused to conform to society's expectations. She lost friends, faced criticism, endured judgment. But she gained something infinitely more valuable. She gained herself, the authentic, uncompromising, fully realized version of who she was meant to be. The difference between self-compassion and self-responsibility is this. Self-compassion says, I understand why I made that choice. Self-responsibility says, I understand why I made that choice, and I'm going to make a different one now. One keeps you stuck in understanding, the other propels you into action. So how do you actually live this way? You start treating your word to yourself as sacred. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. Not when you feel like it. Not when conditions are perfect. Now, you develop what Beauvoir called radical honesty, the courage to see yourself clearly without the filter of justification. Are you ready to live in a world where your only limitation is your willingness to act? We've reached the end of this journey together, and if you're still here, something profound has already shifted inside you. You've felt the weight of truth, the discomfort of recognition, the stirring of possibility. But here's the moment that will define everything. What happens when you close this video? Will you return to the comfortable prison of your excuses, or will you step into the terrifying freedom of a life without limits? Beauvoir spent her final years reflecting on a simple but devastating question. What would I have become if I had been brave enough to live without apology from the very beginning? She realized that authenticity isn't a destination. It's a daily choice to refuse the seductive comfort of self-deception. Every morning, she chose courage over comfort, truth over convenience, growth over safety. Right now, you're standing at the same crossroads she faced every day. Your old life, the one built on excuses, limitations, and someday, is behind you. It's familiar, predictable, safe, but it's also slowly killing the person you're meant to become. Ahead of you lies the unknown territory of a life without excuses. It's terrifying because you can't predict it, control it, or guarantee its outcome. But it's also the only path to becoming fully, authentically, unapologetically yourself. Here's what I want you to understand. The fact that you've watched this far isn't an accident. Your soul called you here because it's ready to stop pretending. It's ready to stop hiding behind stories that once served you but now suffocate you. You've been preparing for this moment your entire life, even when you didn't know it. But transformation requires more than understanding. It requires action. Right now, I want you to think of one excuse you've been carrying, one limitation you've been accepting, one someday you've been postponing. Got it? Good. Now I want you to do something that will terrify your old self. I want you to write one word in the comments below that represents your commitment to abandoning that excuse. Just one word. Courage. Now. Enough. Freedom. Whatever word captures your decision to stop being a victim of your own narrative. This isn't just a comment. It's a declaration. It's you telling the universe, telling yourself, telling everyone watching that you refuse to live small anymore. And by writing it, you're joining a community of people who've decided that excuses are no longer acceptable currency in their lives. Beauvoir's final message to the world was this: The most scandalous thing a person can do is live authentically. Because when you stop making excuses, when you take full responsibility for your life, when you refuse to be a victim of your circumstances, you become dangerous. Dangerous to mediocrity. Dangerous to the status quo. Dangerous to everyone who's still hiding behind their own limitations. Your excuse-free life starts the moment you decide it does. Not tomorrow. Not when you're ready. Not when conditions are perfect. Now. Because the only thing standing between you and the life you've always wanted is the story you keep telling yourself about why you can't have it. So write that word. Take that first step. And remember, you didn't come this far just to come this far. You came this far to go further than you ever thought possible. The question isn't whether you can live without excuses. The question is, will you?